Hello, universe. I am, very happy that you are here, taking a moment with me. I hope you enjoy this video. Basically, this is going to be the first in, hopefully, a series of videos that I plan on making where I get high, smoking like weed vape. I don't do illegal drugs, I don't do no illegal drugs. No, I only smoke weed. The reason I do that is because I have chronic pain. And also because I like to get high, and I do live in a state where it's legal, and I'm well above legal age. I'm 26. So, it's completely above the board, but please be, I guess the discretion is that you shouldn't be doing any drugs generally, and if you do decide to do them, I severely hope that you are of the proper age and in a place that it is legal to do so. Otherwise I would highly suggest against it, and I would mostly suggest against it. Anyway, this video is not to promote doing drugs. It is not really a promotion of anything. It is just sort of a sit-down video where I've recorded a little bit of myself, or sort of done a time... what was the word? I've sort of done a time-lapse video. Excuse me. It's 2 a.m. of me working on this sort of Minecraft build that I've been working on for the past, couple days. And, the next video hopefully will be me finishing some more of it. And, sort of just sitting down, having a chat about random things that I've been researching, and specifically, I wrote a script for myself. Dun dun dun! Yeah. I wrote a script about the topic that I'm going to be talking about, and I hope that you guys find it interesting. So yeah, why don't you go ahead and join me while I scream into the void. There we go. Let's do it. So yeah, I'm just looking at my little my little script here. Right. So how are you guys doing? You hear that? That's the sound of me drinking your children's tears. I was gonna say your soul, and then I changed to your children's tears. That's even worse. Oh, that's horrible. No, okay, I'll stop. Here we go. So the brain... The brain doesn't die quietly. It burns. In those final moments when the body begins to surrender and the heart stumbles into silence, the mind erupts in light. Billions of neurons fire in a single, furious symphony, a storm of electricity more vivid than anything you've ever dreamed. It's not peace, it's not pain, it's everything at once. By the way, before I go any further, I should just do an aside. Before I go any further waffling on, because it's going to be a lot of me waffling for the next fucking however long this video ends up being, before I go on, I want to mention right now that I have Tourette's. And I also have like some speech impediment issues generally, that I've had for a very long time. This is a reveal. This is a reveal because anyone who's my friend, because I'm gonna like probably post this on Facebook or anything, they're probably watching it. Like even my own brother probably would be watching this and just like hearing that and be like, "No, you don't." I do actually, Drew. Name drop. Name drop. The only one. Maybe Brett. Maybe Brett would find this interesting. My brothers. Oh god, I miss him. Name drops. I don't know if they'll be comfortable with that. I'll have to censor it, won't I, later? Or I'll just say their name and it's a bit different than the name I said. But I'll figure it out. Bert. Oh god. He'll get that joke too, because of growing up. Oh my god. So this aside is going on way too long. Should I just get back to no. I want to be myself. I want to be myself here. I feel like it's more valuable for me to just be my authentic self when I record these videos, because I just want to be my authentic self. And if that, it's not, I'm not even making this video to be popular on YouTube, because I know that that'll never happen. That's why I call you guys the voiders, because in reality, I'm aware that this video is in a lot of ways just me screaming into the void. So I feel like that's why I always say that. That's why, I've been calling you guys that, and I'll be calling you guys that from now on. Is because like anyone who's watching this is the you guys, and I know that there's literally nobody watching this. So I feel it's rather more fun to just be my authentic self and scream into the void as my authentic self and just go along with that. So yeah, I am gonna say that when I was saying earlier that I do miss my brothers. I miss my brothers. I really do. I miss my family, but that's completely off topic. I am quite high. Yeah, let's just do a counter of how many times I've said I'm quite high. I don't know why. Sometimes I sort of slip into this accent. Okay. Back to the... Let's just get back to the topic. So scientists call this terminal brain activity, a surge of gamma rays, the same frequencies that dance through our heads during REM sleep. The dreaming state, basically. It's possible that as we die, our brains slip into one last lucid dream, a hyperreal hallucinatory farewell. This may be the origin of every story of heaven and hell. Every version of light, every meeting with lost loved ones, not the soul leaving the body, but the brain turning inward, writing its own final myth. I call this the Samael theory. In old texts, Samael is the angel of death, the poison of God, but also the keeper of hidden truth. He is both the end and the revealer of meaning. That's what I think the dying brain becomes. Samael in biological form. As the mind collapses, it floods itself with light, with memory, with emotion. It conjures the world it believes in most. Your beliefs, your fears, your guilt, your hopes, they all rise to the surface. Each of us meets not a god, but a mirror. The afterlife you see is a reflection of what you carried within you. A mind at peace dissolves into warmth and color. A mind at war sees judgment and flames. And in both cases, the experience is absolutely real, for as long as the brain can dream. If that's true, then what we call dying isn't a moment, it's a process. A neural play unfolding inside the collapsing time. In your brain. Seconds stretched into eternities. a final act written by the author who lived the story. That's where self-actualization takes place. To know yourself in life is to die with lucidity. To confront your own shadow while living is to greet Samael without fear. Because maybe enlightenment isn't about transcending death, but recognizing that death itself is the last, pure moment of awareness. Samael isn't your enemy, he's your reflection. The last dream before the dark. The light that shows you who you've been before the light goes out. The Samael theory doesn't claim that death is a door, only that it's an experience. Death is also an experiment, but it's not the kind of experiment that you want to be really conducting. Anyway, the final neurological crescendo that mimics transcendence. When oxygen leaves the brain, it doesn't vanish into stillness. It floods itself with chemicals. Dopamine, serotonin, waves of DMT, and which is like a strange molecule that our bodies already make in secret. These are the same compounds that blur the line between self and cosmos during REM sleep. REM sleep. I keep saying REM. It's the band REM. No, REM sleep. Can you imagine just every time you lay your head down on the little pillow, you're all tucked into bed, and then suddenly as you're just dozing off into sleep, you enter that dream state of REM, and then suddenly in the background, load up on guns and bring your friends. That's not even a REM. You know what I love the most about that bit? That is not even an REM song. I struggle to even think of a single REM song now. Oh god, did they create Creep? That was radio. I can't think of an REM. Is REM a band? Sorry. Tangents. Okay. Tangents. That's always fun. God damn it. So, God, I completely lost my place, but basically I'm talking about the chemical compounds that fire off in your brain in the process of death, and how they can create these REM sleep type of hallucinations in the final moments of death. And that's why I feel like there's that blur in the line between self and cosmos during the REM sleep, or in the wild euphoria of psychedelics. That's why people who have been revived after cardiac arrest describe the same things as those who have taken ayahuasca, psilocybin, or near-lethal doses of ketamine. Bright lights, eternal time, a sense of unity with everything. The ego, the small I that thinks it's separate, simply dissolves. Psychologists call this ego death. Neuroscientists have traced it to the quieting of the default mode network, the brain's internal narrator, the voice that keeps saying, I am me. When that collapses, so does identity. What remains is raw perception, the universe seeing itself without a name. So imagine the moment of death as the ultimate ego death. The default mode network doesn't just quiet, it burns out. The last coherent signal you ever send is one of boundless unity, because the brain's storytelling circuits can't hold the shape of you anymore. That might be why so many cultures describe death as returning to the light, because on a neurological level, that's exactly what's happening. Neurons firing in full spectrum chaos, a final blinding bloom of self-awareness, before awareness itself ceases. Some researchers, still on the fringe, wonder if the DMT surge in the dying brain could generate an experience indistinguishable from eternity. Time perception breaks down, and those seconds of neural fireworks could feel like forever. That forever might be your heaven, your hell, or your reconciliation with the self. So under the Samael theory, death isn't a punishment or a portal. It's the last unfulfilled encounter with the consciousness itself. The venom and the cure. Samael embodied in biology. So here's where things go a bit crazy. If ego death can be induced chemically by psychedelics, by trauma, by hypoxia, then perhaps death's dream is not unapproachable. Perhaps consciousness can be trained, conditioned to enter that state lucidly before dying. That's what mystics have tried for millennia, through meditation, fasting, breath work, to step beyond the self without killing the body. And maybe that's what science is circling back to, with neural imaging and psychedelic therapy trying to glimpse Samael without paying full price of admission. If the Samael theory is true, then death isn't an erasure. It's the final revelation of the self, the ultimate lucid dream. A flash of boundless awareness, painted by chemistry and memory, stretched into what might feel like eternity. But eternity, perhaps, isn't about time at all. It's about recognition. The mind stripped bare, seeing itself one last time. Every choice, every emotion, every act of cruelty or love, all of it written into the neural fabric, ready to replay itself in that closing act. Not as punishment, not as reward, just as truth. The Samael theory says that this is what the angel of death really offers us. Clarity, not darkness, not light, but both. The venom and the cure in one breath. Maybe that's what people mean when they say your life flashes before your eyes. Maybe the flashing isn't memory, but integration. The self folding back into what it always was. And if consciousness dissolves the same way it began, as a spark in the dark, then the end isn't terrifying, it's symmetrical. A mirror closing gently over its own reflection. The mystics might call it returning to the source. The neuroscientists might call it terminal gamma activity. Different words, same light. And if we live our lives knowing that light is waiting, then maybe we can practice dying before we die, by learning to let go of everything we're not, by waking up from the stories that bind us, while we're still here to write new ones. Because perhaps the greatest secret Samael holds isn't about death at all. It's about how to live lucidly. So that when the final dream begins, you recognize it as your own creation. So that is the theory that I have written. I hope you guys enjoyed the little bit of waffling I did. Yeah, and, I plan on making at least, like, a couple more videos like this. Just to see kind of what happens and test, doing whatever I want and kind of going with the flow. This is something that I've been interested in for a while. I've always had a pretty vast interest in the death and afterlife because I've had so many personal experiences with death. I worked as a caregiver for quite a few years in my life. And as such, taking care of people in hospice, taking care of people with dementia and Alzheimer's disease, and at many, different levels of, you know, um, neurocognitive function. I've had so many personal experiences with people who were on the verge of death. And it's fascinating. So yeah, that's my take. And if you are wondering like what my religious views are based off of this, I would say that I am 1000% the most pure version of atheist possible. Because this theory is not about the afterlife, it is about what happens before you die. In my opinion, when you die, your consciousness ceases to exist. And so, because of that fact, you no longer have the ability to experience anything. Your brain is dead. You no longer have the ability to experience anything. And I feel like, sometimes when atheists talk about death and they talk about the afterlife, other people, or even the atheists themselves, picture it as this pure black darkness that you're walking through or sleeping through or whatever. But I do not see it that way. I see it purely as this state of not being able to experience. Your consciousness ceases to exist. You no longer have the ability to experience. And that concept is basically impossible to describe because the only thing I could relate it to is the state of sleep that you find yourself in between consciousness and REM sleep. Basically, that state of sleep that you're in where you're no longer conscious and before you enter into REM sleep and you have dreams that you remember. Or I would describe it as the dreams that you don't remember. And again, it's not pitch black darkness of nothingness or sleep. It's like just the inability to even experience at all. And I feel like that concept itself is impossible to describe. And some people, they think that as terrifying, but the Samael theory that I have conjured up is, in a way, my version of the afterlife. Because although I am an atheist and I truly believe that when you die, you no longer have the ability to experience anything, the afterlife is not a physical place. It is your brain. It is a dream. It is your last dream. And I feel like, in a way, although that dream can be horrible, it can be beautiful, it is also comforting. Because it is, in a sense, your eternity. Because once your consciousness ceases to exist and you no longer have the ability to conjure up that dream, it's died. You don't have the ability to conjure that dream for yourself anymore. That feels like eternity for you. Because once that eternity ends, you no longer have that concept. You no longer have that eternity because your brain has died. You have ended completely. Just complete annihilation of all consciousness. Is that sad? Is that scary? Is it different? You know, is it more comforting for people to think that there is heaven and there's punishment for people who don't believe in that? Even though that's the way that their God made it. I don't agree. There's so many scientific discoveries that prove against the texts that I've seen. There are multiple new ways of proving that all of these different religious beliefs are just beliefs. There's no fact. There's no undeniable proof. But science is exactly what it is. Science is science. You can't really, unprove it because that is the science. That's the gravity. That's, the cars moving on the street, the computers turning on, and the hearts beating in our chest. It's all already proven. But the religious texts are not. And, I'm a undeniable proof type of person, I guess. Do I believe that there's a possibility of the afterlife? Of course there is. Of course, there's always going to be a possibility of these things. There's no way to know for sure until that day that you die. But, this is just my opinion. This is just how I see it. And I hope that it sparks some thought and hopefully an interesting conversation. So yeah, thank you for listening. And I will talk to you guys next time. Be seeing you.